Hola amigos y bienvenidos. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre el verbo gustar. Gustar literally translates to be pleasing to, but in English we know it better as to express liking, the liking of something. Now in Spanish there is no direct translation for how we use this verb. We cannot directly translate I like chocolate in Spanish. Instead, we have to use gustar along with another piece of grammar that we call the IOP. This stands for indirect object pronoun. Hopefully this is starting to sound a little familiar. So let's go ahead and define what our IOPs are. We have first me, te, le, nos, and les. And these translate to me, to you. Now le belongs to him, to her, and also to you in the formal sense. I'll abbreviate that there. Nos translates to us, and les translates to them. Again, it can be masculine or feminine, and it also translates to you all. Now, the reason why we start here in defining what these IOPs are and what they translate to is crucial to understanding how we're going to use gustar. Because I cannot say, I like chocolate. Instead, in Spanish, our structure will look more like this. To me, comma, chocolate is pleasing. Now, this sounds a little foreign to us, but it's honestly a pretty easy thing to adapt to, and I think with some practice, we'll get there pretty quickly together. All right. Now that we have the flow down, let's talk about our conjugations of gustar. So, maybe we remember this from before, but gustar only has two conjugations that we are going to work with, and that is the third person singular, which is gusta, and then we have our third person plural, which is gustan. Okay, so now that we have these two conjugations, how do we know which one to use? We're going to use gusta if what we're talking about, if what is pleasing to us or to whomever, is a singular thing. And we also use gusta if what is pleasing to us is a verb. For example, if I like to walk, or if I want to say that walking is pleasing to me, I'm going to use this form of gustar here, gusta. All right, and that leaves my gustan over here. Now there's only one indicator for using the third person plural, and that is if the thing that is pleasing to us happens to be a plural thing. Right? So if I wanted to say presents are pleasing to me, or Mondays are pleasing to me, I know we all love those. That is when we're going to use our third person plural here. So let's do an example and then we'll break it down. If I wanted to say that I like the book, this is how we're going to structure it. My IOP comes first. I'll make that in red here, me. And then I want to say I like the book. So I have to think, what is pleasing to me here? And my answer, of course, is the book. This also is a singular thing. So I know that the form of gustar I'm going to choose is gusta. So I have me gusta, and then over here in green, I'm going to put el libro. So me gusta el libro. Okay, so let's dissect this a little further. El libro, right here. This is my subject, right? This is what's pleasing to me. This is the reason why gustar that I chose was in the singular form. So I'm going to, underneath here, I'm going to write subject, right? Gusta, of course, is my verb. And it's singular because my subject is singular. And then I get over here to me. I am not the subject when it comes to these constructions in Spanish, right? I'm not the one doing the pleasing. It's the book that is doing the pleasing to me. So that is why I am the receiver, or the indirect object pronoun. I'm the person being affected. So anytime that we're talking about the idea of liking in Spanish, we're going to follow this construction each time. Let's do some more examples. All right, so here I have a few example sentences that I would like us to work through. The first one says, I like school. Or another way that we can look at this is by saying school is pleasing to me. Remember our order. The first thing that we need to put down is the person being affected, our IOP. And in this sentence, it's still me, right? So we see me. Now I need to plug in my form of gustar, in which case school is doing the action. School is the subject. It's what's pleasing to me. So it's a singular noun. I'm going to choose gusta, and then I'm going to plug in my, my subject here, which is la escuela. Me gusta la escuela. School is pleasing to me, or I like school. The next one here, we're looking at I like movies, or another way, of course, is movies are pleasing to me. I am still the one that's being affected here, so we still see me. Now, the subject of this sentence, the movies, right? This is what is pleasing to me, and it happens to be plural. So this tells me that my form of gustar needs to be in that plural sense of gustan. Me gustan, and then I'm going to plug in my subject here, which is las películas. Excellent. For the last one here, simple sentence, I like to sing, or singing is pleasing to me. Same thing as before, guys. Me, I am the one that's being affected, or to me, singing is pleasing. And since sing is my subject here, doing the action, I'm going to be choosing my singular form of gustar because it is a verb. So me gusta, and then I simply plug in my subject here, which is to sing, and we have cantar. All right, so this time around, we're gonna get some practice in with a few other of our IOPs. In our first sentence, we have, you like to write. And of course, we can always say that as writing is pleasing to you. Whichever way helps keep it straight in your mind, use it. All right, so we know first that we're always gonna start out with that IOP, that person being affected here. And in this sentence, it is not me, but you. So the IOP that we plug in first is they. Now, I'm talking about what's pleasing to them or to you, and we see that it is writing. So this is going to make me choose my singular form of gustar, gusta, because the subject to write is a verb, and that tells me I have to use my singular form of gustar. So, te gusta, and I plug in escribir. You like to write, or writing is pleasing to you. And our next one down here, we see we like cars. So that person being affected, well, that's us, right? So I know that I need to plug in my IOP, nos. Now, my subject here, the cars, this is what's doing the pleasing. And this happens to be a plural noun, which means that my form of gustar needs to be in that plural sense of gustan. And now I can plug in that subject of los carros. So the cars are pleasing to us, or we like cars. The bottom one down here, it's a question, but we're really lucky when it comes to our gustar sentences because they are the exact same as our questions. The only difference is you add a question mark at the beginning and the end. So here we go. We'll do this one as normal. I'm talking about you again, right? You are the person being affected, so I start here with they. And then to run, I see that this is my subject. This is what I'm asking if it is pleasing to you or not. So it's a verb. I got to choose my singular form of gustar, of gusta, and then I plug in that subject, which is correr. Now, if I leave it like this, it's a statement. I am saying, you like to run. Te gusta correr. However, if I'm trying to ask you if you do like to run, I have to put my question mark at the end and the beginning. And then when I ask the question, you hear a little bit of an inflection. It changes from te gusta correr, you like to run, to te gusta correr, do you like to run? All right, and the last two that we are going to focus on for the sake of these notes is finally le and les. Now remember, le covers some pretty solid ground. It means to him, to her, and to you in that formal sense. Les is to them, of course the masculine and feminine, and then also to you all. Now, because le and les are doing double or triple duty here, we have to include something a little different when we're talking about sentences that are involving either le or les. And that is called a prepositional phrase. That's a big word just to say that we just need to define who we're talking about by stating who it is. So here we go. I'm going to write an example first, and then I'll break it down from there. All right, so here is my sentence. We're going to say, she likes the lesson. Okay, so first things first, I see who I'm talking about. Remember, I can reverse that sentence. I can say, the lesson is pleasing to her. There we go. So I see that my person being affected here is going to be her, right? Now, my subject, what is pleasing to me, or to her rather, that is the lesson. So here we go. I'm going to create this sentence just like this. I'm going to start with a ella le gusta la lección. Now, if you'll notice, over here in black, what I have different, this is my prepositional phrase. All this does, let me make a little note of that here, prepositional phrase. All this does is indicate or define the person being affected. All right, so I'm saying to her, the lesson is pleasing. Okay? If I wanted to change it and say that the lesson is pleasing to him, well, none of the le gusta la lección would change because le belongs to him as well. What would change, though, is that prepositional phrase. So if I wanted to change it to him, I would need to erase my ella here. And then I'm going to plug in él. A él le gusta la lección. You see what I mean? And then again, if I wanted to say to you formal, if I was speaking to you formally, I would take out the a él and I would just substitute that for a usted le gusta la lección. All right, so we're going to take a look at a few more example sentences together. The first one says, the music is pleasing to Adrián. So, I see first that my person being affected is Adrián. So I know that that means that my IOP is going to be le, and that also means I have to include a prepositional phrase. So remember, that phrase looks like a, to, and then I'm going to say él. A él, plug in my IOP le, and now we can continue on like normal. My subject here, the thing that is doing the pleasing, is actually the music, which happens to be a singular noun. So my form of gustar is going to look like this. A él le gusta, and then we just plug in my subject, la música. Now, something that I didn't really pay attention to, and this is my oops here, but because I named specifically Adrian here, it would have been more appropriate for me to make that prepositional phrase include his name. So instead of saying a él, I should have put initially a Adrián, and then continued on with le gusta la música. So remember, a subject pronoun or a proper noun, someone's name, can go in the prepositional phrase. Okay, let's continue on. The next sentence says, they like to walk. Now, if we remember, I'm not specifying a gender here, so this tells me that I'm going to default to that masculine form, as always. And here we go. So, my prepositional phrase, I'm going to say a ellos, and then my IOP that matches ellos, of course, is les. And then I'm going to plug in my form of gustar. It's going to be singular because my subject, the thing that's pleasing to them, is walking. So a ellos les gusta, and then I plug in my caminar. Now, if I wanted to say they feminine like to walk, I could have done that as well. My ellos would have simply changed to ellas. All right, and then my last one today, guys. We have the dogs are pleasing to you all. So here we go. The person or group of people being affected we see is you all, or ustedes. So again, I'm using that les, which tells me I have to include that prepositional phrase, which is a ustedes. I abbreviate it for short. And then I plug in that IOP, les. Now, the thing that's doing the pleasing to you all is going to be the dogs. So it's a plural noun. So my form of gustar needs to reflect that. Gustan, and now I finally plug in the rest of my sentence, los perros. All right, guys, that concludes it for today. I know that our notes were a little bit longer than normal, but thanks for sticking with me. If you all have any questions, always know I'm here. And other than that, have a great day. Adios, amigos.